Heyo, Omni Dogs and Omni Kittens. It's Omni Dog here with another review. And I've got some really good books to review this weekend. So let's get right to it. The first ones are the three volumes of Rose. And this will appeal to you if you're into magic and fantasy, which I am. So I really like these books a lot. They're by Meredith Finch, who wrote this one really well. And I'm not sure the pronunciation of the artist's name, so I apologize. It looks like it's Igwara. Uh, but let's start with book one. And this is where Rose discovers that as a little girl, she is uh, one of the last of the magic in the land. Magic in the land where she's growing up has been slowly disappearing. And it turns out that not only does she have magic, but she is the last of the guardians, and they are linked to what is called a cat, Khat, and they used to, uh, in a good way, help protect the land. A guardian and a cat were psychically linked. They had magical powers, and she is linked to one called Thorn, a long ago thought disappeared big panther named Thorn, and but Thorn has awakened out of a slumber and has a magic collar on him to keep his powers dampened from the evil queen Drusilla, who is determined to wipe out magic from the land and conquer the land and keep everyone. She is extremely, through her actions in this book, you see that she is extremely evil. She's basically the Darth Vader of this book. She is really evil and beyond redemption. Um, so this is an excellently written book, really well drawn. In the first book, this is Rose discovering her powers, trying to um, uh, reunite with Thorn, and she gets caught up in a rebellion against the evil queen, and she sees her mother get killed in an attack on a village, swears vengeance on her, and ends up with some comrades that will help her. They're involved in the rebellion, and um, she ends up um getting a very powerful ally who is one of the queen's henchmen, who's a giant with a giant sword. She ends up saving his life. He's out to kill her, but she saves his life, and he ends up on her side. And here's uh, a sighting of the magic cat Thorn, who has the dampening collar on him at this point. And here's a big picture of him. Even though he's got the dampening collar on him, he's able to save her. And so this book sets up the rest of the series, and she's starting to come into her powers, and it's really good setup for the rest of the series. Book two, she is discovered by a bit of a kind of a magic sect, and there's an important dove that shows up who will be important later on in the book. The dove is a recurring theme throughout the book from her childhood on through the rest of the story, and there are scenes that are take place in the castle where Drusilla's castle, where there are prisoners that have been there a long time. They are important coming up in book three. And this magic sect says Rose has to go through some trials to see her true potential. So they take Rose and Thorn to this proving ground so she can go through This is a scene from the castle of Drusilla's, where they've captured some important people. And so Thorn goes through her trial, but I'm sorry, Rose goes through her trial, but Thorn escapes, only to be captured by Drusilla. And Thorn is given. I'm sorry, I'm going to get Rose and Thorn mixed up a lot. Rose gets a magical token after she passes through her trial. They admit they made a mistake separating Rose and Thorn because Thorn goes missing and gets captured. I don't want to give away too much more than this um, at this point, but um, the story continues. It's 3 volumes long, so there's lots of adventure, lots of excitement, and Rose continues to grow throughout the whole book. And she's got here she has a powerful ally that can speak into a magic skull. That's Isla, I believe, and she's like a mother to Rose, part of a little kind of group that forms around Rose that not only protects her but leads the rebellion. And in volume 3, this is where Rose is captured along with Thorn in the castle, but some people escape the castle, and I don't want to go into too much detail because this is where the book really ramps up and all the excitement happens. Here's Thorn kept in the castle. This is where the excitement really, excuse me, ramps up, and you get a lot of excitement because the armies of Drusilla are forming, and the rebellion is forming, and some things happen inside the castle to undermine Drusilla, and I don't want to say any more than that because it will spoil it. But Drusilla's evil continues to grow. Rose's powers continue to grow. Thorn gets psychically more connected to Rose, and it's a great magic fantasy book if you're into magic and fantasy, which I am. And so, Rose, volumes 1 through 3 by Meredith Finch, and Ig Wara. I highly recommend it. This is by Image, so I loved it. A little bit different book from Aftershock, A Walk Through Hell by Garth Ennis. This involves 2 FBI agents who are called to investigate a warehouse. And it's a story that's told in flashbacks too, dealing with a child predator who they initially investigated, and whoever the SWAT team that went into the warehouse first ends up killing themselves, and the 2 FBI detectives that went into the warehouse first are missing, and nobody wants to go into this warehouse. None of the police do, but the FBI agents do. And what they find in there is mind-bogglingly crazy. And they wake up, they pass out, the 2 FBI agents do, and wake up without a pulse and encounter all kinds of crazy things in there. And the rest of the story, a lot of the story is told in flashbacks on their hunt for this uh, child predator who has recruited um, other known sex offenders and has somehow convinced themselves not only to help him in not only recruit him into stealing more children, but then to kill themselves immediately after. So they're trying to, in these flashbacks, find the next child sex offender and keep more kids from being stolen off the street. Uh, and they actually get the sex offender, the child molester, but they can't prove anything against him. And so there's some morally um, sketchy things the FBI agents are thinking about doing to try and get this guy behind bars. Um, here's the guy right here being questioned by the officers. They have no real evidence against him. And meanwhile, they're still, it's since it's told in flashbacks, they're still in the warehouse going through all kinds of crazy Garth Ennis like things in this labyrinthine warehouse where they encounter just unbelievable, amazingly creepy things, and it deals with all kinds of FBI related things. I don't know what. I guess this is like a crime procedural horror comic. The only thing that the only caveat against this is just book one, and book two doesn't come out until October. So I highly recommend this if you can wait for the second book to come out. Walk Through Hell by Garth Ennis, Aftershock Comics, with great art by that artist right there, whose name I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name, first name Gorin, but his art is fantastic. I love to walk through hell. The next book is, I can't even recommend this book highly enough. I don't have words for how great this book is. High Crimes by Christopher Sabella and art by Ibrahim Mustafa. This deals with a disgraced Olympic snowboarder who decides to start over and move to Nepal and lead a different life. She ends up working with a guy that works on Mount Everest. They go up, and apparently, this is a very well researched book. I went through a period a few years ago where I was obsessed with Mount Everest, and not going there, certainly, forget it. But I read a lot about it, read several books about it, and all the expeditions up there. And apparently, the site is littered with dead bodies. People go up there and die. And it's a scary place to go up there, and people die all the time up there. And what they do is they cut off the hands. This is what in the book what she and her partner do. They cut off the hands of the people up there, get them ID'd through thumbprints, send their loved ones of these people the IDs of the people, and say, if you want, for a price, we will retrieve the body and get them home to you for a proper burial. And that's how they make their money. Is that morally reprehensible? I don't know. It's a comic book. You be the judge. But that's how they make their money. And she's completely got a not a new identity, but she's left her old past behind, which continues to haunt her. She's living a life of drugs and alcohol and climbing parts of Mount Everest to retrieve these body parts. And when her partner goes up and brings back a hand, she examines the hand, and a little teeny capsule falls out. She examines the capsule at a local library and it contains microfiche, and it's full of USA military secrets. So she and the guy not only retrieves the hand, but a bunch of personal effects that were on the body, and it contains the guy's personal journal. And it turns out the guy was a secret agent for the United States government. It has the location of other microfiche capsules in his body. He was sick of his job as a secret agent. He apparently was thought he might die on Mount Everest, and he did. So she becomes obsessed with finding the body. and she thinks it's her ticket out of there. She can sell the secrets maybe to the government, not to the government, but to the highest bidder. The art is really good. The story is an amazing thriller, amazing action packed thriller, because when they run this guy's ID uh, through the identification system with his thumbprint, it turns up on the U.S. government's radar, and they send a team of highly trained U.S. secret agents after the body too. So not only is she racing up the slopes, well, you can't really race up the slopes of Mount Everest, but not only is she going up there for it, but so is this highly trained team. And as you know, you can't race up the slopes. You've got to go up the slopes carefully, get your body acclimated to altitude, and it is an extremely well done thriller because there's blackmail, there's espionage, they take her partner. Um, they capture her partner. I think they cut off his hand. They capture her partner, and they they basically are in the same camps together. And it's how much is she willing to do to get to this body, knowing that these guys are highly trained assassins. Um, how much is she willing to risk to get to this body too? It becomes uh, her reason to live now, to get to this body, to try and save her partner. And it's a race against the clock, and it's a race against Mount Everest. It's a race against the weather. There are other stories told in flashbacks about her disgraced snowboarding Olympic career. There are other little bits and pieces of personal stories told in this. It's a pretty good sized book. High Crimes by Dark Horse. 100% cannot recommend this enough. It is a thriller to the max with all kinds of back and forth, amazing escapes, amazing courage, amazing crazy action going on. She risks her life time and again, and it's completely, um, it's really well done. I just thought this book was amazing. It is really, really well done, and I give this book full marks. 5 out of 5 stars, 10 out of 10 stars, 5 out of 5 root beers, whatever. You need to read this book. High Crimes, Christopher Sabella and Ibrahim Mustafa by Dark Horse. I highly recommend this book. A real page turning thriller. So that's it for this day's reviews. Please feel free to leave comments. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. And until the next review, peace and love. Peace and love. Thank you for watching.